All right, guys, welcome in to the show. Four Verticals Podcast, episode 69. Is that right? 69? Are we on the 69th show? I think it's actually 68. Let me actually double check that. Is that actually right? Is this title right, guys? Let me go check real quick because I'm pretty sure this should be 69. So it is. So the title's wrong. Don't worry. I'll fix that afterwards. If you're listening to this on the replay, doesn't necessarily matter that much, but we are live on the YouTube. And this will be on Spotify as well. Verticals Podcast, episode 69, not 68. That was last week. Big show today, jam-packed. Fantastic Four trailer reaction thoughts that came out this morning. I have some takeaways from it. Also, Ohio State has a brand new offensive coordinator, or we'll have a brand new offensive coordinator with Chip Kelly moving on. Ryan Grubb back at Alabama. Matt Rhule has some interesting comments about the spring game. Got some predictions versus reality segment. And then wrap up the show. Got Buccaneers have a new OC. Did you guys know that? Yeah, they did. Promoted from within, no less. Like I told you guys last week, thought we would have some sort of resolution on OC search for Tampa. Turns out we did. As I was right on that. So if you're new here, first of all, welcome in. Make sure you subscribe, like the stream, follow us on Spotify, podcast feed there, and also be sure to follow me on Twitter as well on @4verts_pod. I want to make sure real quickly here before we get too far into the show. I want to make sure you guys can actually hear me. I know we are live again on the YouTube. This will be available on replay and on podcast later. So if you want to rewatch this, if you're not watching it live, then you can do so if you want to. Okay, so we are for sure live. You guys can hear me as well. So with all that stuff out of the way, the boilerplate introduction stuff, let's actually get in here. So, next, before I do that, I'm going to get some water real quick because my voice is a little bit parched. We're not parched yet. So let me go ahead and do that. Okay. So there was a trailer that, or let me start over on that. The Fantastic Four trailer finally came out. Some people thought the Super Bowl could be an option for the trailer to come out. Doesn't matter. Matt Shackman and those guys, marketing team over at Marvel, decided, you know what? Let's just drop this beforehand because we know the Super Bowl isn't really busy. Grant you, they probably could have done it in the Super Bowl, but knowing, and I actually agree with Josh over at Den of Nerds, who was on live earlier, maybe they did move it to Tuesday today because they didn't want it to sort of butt heads of, like, you know, some of the Superman stuff could be getting, Thunderbolts, trailer that could be coming out, some other stuff that could also be appearing, if you will. So it's probably a good reason why they moved it. Do I think it warranted a full on presentation and like full on, them being on location, by the way, in Huntsville, Alabama, of all places, home of the Space Rocket Center, place I used to call home for a little bit. So that was kind of cool, at least for me, to actually see that. It's actually a building I've actually been into the Space Museum up there. Great, by the way. I've actually been to both the Space Museum and the one in Florida and the one in Huntsville. Of course, I spent some time there, so that's pretty cool that they actually did that. And they flew the cast out there. I didn't know that. It's been pretty secretive. Probably the first time I've ever been in Huntsville before. I'm sure like guys like Pedro Pascal and Vanessa Kirby and those guys, the cast of the film, probably never been to Huntsville before. Probably didn't know you didn't exist, but it does. How about that? The cast of a Marvel movie deeply in SEC territory. We got that before GTA 6. A lot of things before GTA 6. But anyway, enough about that. I guess we can complain about, sure, did it warranted a full live stream that technically started at 7 o'clock, ended at like 8:30. Which is kind of weird, the whole presentation. I won't dwell on this too much longer. But just the fact that they did the whole presentation, and okay, cool. It's got that, 1960s, 70s vibe of the NASA launches of like the Apollo stuff and whatever earlier space stuff NASA was doing back then. Now, of course, I wasn't alive back then, so it's not nostalgic to me, but maybe for some of our older viewers, or if there are any, you might find it nostalgic in a way. But just the fact that the stream started at, technically it's supposed to start at 7. It started at 8 because, of course, it coincides with Good Morning America, which was also, I think, being simulcast as well. So they did that once the trailer, before they actually revealed the trailer about the cat. They brought the cast out again. That was cool, but don't think we needed a whole hour to wait for that. But whatever, they can have Drew they gave us enough time. I know that's, some logistical stuff, like making sure people are awake and giving people enough time to wake up, get their coffee or whatever, get their breakfast made. Though then again, I don't think we needed this whole hoopla to get the actually get the trailer out there. But I mean, it was nice though. The actual presentation, interviews was kind of cool. Though again, like I said, I don't think it needed to be a whole event, but it kind of did. Also, by the way, so they did interviews with the cast. They showed the trailer off, but then like the stream ended. And it's like, so we didn't get any reaction from like the fans or whoever the local Huntsville residents who were up there actually at the Space Center. I didn't get the reactions, but on the YouTube stream. But apparently, on Good Morning America, they actually went back to the actual feed there. So it's like, okay, it's kind of strange, but whatever. Strange marketing thing with Marvel. By the way, I know we're doing a lot of by the ways here. I mentioned this on Twitter. A lot of contention, if you will, about the whole Captain America Brave New World footage that's came out. A lot of folks are not happy about it. To a certain extent, I'll touch it on Thursday. That's more of a systemic issue of Marvel marketing, this being one of them. So we'll touch on the Thursday show because that's been a huge topic of debate. I know Josh over at No Nerd's been very vocal about it, and I agree. From someone who, again, has a degree in marketing and public relations, well, PAPR degree, undergrad, seeing how Marvel's mishandled, especially the footage that's came out for Captain America Brave New World, just dropping the bomb, man. And they've done a pretty good job up to this point. They did like Tide ads and all this other advertising crossover, but man, some of the footage they've been releasing, I don't know if they've been releasing that, man. I know they can only release so much. I don't want to spoil the whole movie, but man, that's some of the stuff they've been showing off on YouTube and stuff. It's like, I don't know, man. That's not passing the smell test. Nor to this. And I will not, as much praise I'm about to give them here in just a second, they deserve some blame here. And I think the marketing for at least this and the stuff for Captain America Brave New World, not good enough. I'll touch more on Tuesday, or not Tuesday, well, today's Tuesday. Thursday, more about that, specifically about that film. But let's actually get into the actual footage itself, because that's all what we're here for, right? I thought the footage was good. I thought everything looked good. The aesthetic, again, very, sort of course, the movie takes place in alternate reality. We knew that for months and months now from all the leakers and scoopers who sort of give us this information. So for us, the people who are the sickos who are, invested in this stuff and reading, going on the Reddits and stuff, and listening to Jeff Snyder and some of the Twitter people, we kind of knew what this trailer was going to include. We knew what the movie was going to be like, alternate universe New York being featured, Galactus, who we saw in the trailer right away, first time they're getting a proper Galactus and not some stupid cloud thing in the second Fantastic Four movie that came out in 2007. Finally getting him done properly. I thought the special effects for the Thing looked incredible. Though there are times it looked a little bit too much video gamey, especially the first few images, but some of the other ones too, when he's looking at the TV and it's the human form of Ben Grimm, looked pretty good. I thought they looked great. Trying to think here what else. Some of the cast, Peter Pascal as Reed Richards. Some folks are concerned about it, and great to a certain extent, I somewhat understand why you'd be concerned about that. I'm not the person I think a lot of folks would have chosen to be Reed Richards. Based on what we have seen, a very small snippets, those like less than 2 minutes, looked fine to me. I didn't see any issues with it. Fine. I mean, I know everyone we know is cast. It's like, oh, I mean, it's the guy who's it's the guy from the Mando TV show. Oh, okay. And also the guy from Narcos too. By the way, good shot. I don't think I remember finishing it, but at least the first season was quite good. But he looked fine. Vanessa Kirby as Sue Storm, great. I forget the guy's name who's playing Johnny Storm. Is it Joseph Quinn, I believe? Very few and brief shots of him. The flaming effects look pretty good, especially, of course, after what the Chris Evans version that came back and Deadpool and Wolverine, very similar. But just the cinematography, too, by the way, just very different. Again, sort of in that the aesthetic is very, again, 1970s, 60s, sort of, if you've been to places like, Disney World and everything where they have like the really weird futuristic building designs, which to us who were born in like the 90s or the 2000s, we don't feel like, doesn't register with us. But if you've been to places like that or watched other movies or seen videos like the old, like Disney, the Walt Disney, what was it, that TV show used to do, like when he was still alive, again, way before my time, but stuff like that, definitely nostalgic for that group. For me, not so much, but I get why they did it. Of course, back in the 60s, that's when Marvel was in their peak. releasing a lot of the comics. A lot of those comic characters made their debut in the 60s. That's probably why they chose that. Sort of like a proper Marvel universe, which is fine, by the way. But then again, the nostalgia factor, at least for me, didn't hit. Maybe for some of the other folks, older audience listening to this, or older fans of Marvel would understand it. But again, I thought the effects looked pretty cool. The shots of the alternate New York, interesting, as I pointed out on Twitter, responding to New Rock Stars. Very sneaky. They suppose looks like they included the World Trade Center. I wondered how they were going to address that, how they were going to include the Trade Center, because the original version of the Trade Center wasn't in construction until the 70s, but from the looks of it, it's in the movie. A version of it. Now, it's not the original buildings, for obvious reasons. They're not going to include those. But it's a version. It's like a Space Needle type thing. I put it on Twitter. Interesting. I'm assuming that's what that is, because they're going to have like the old, what used to be the World Financial Center buildings are there, which are here today, which were not, by the way, around in the 60s. So, again, it's kind of continuity error, but also it's an alternate reality, whatever. Maybe they just advanced quicker than we did. We don't know for sure. But again, the aesthetics were all there. The cast was great. The family dynamic was cool. We got to see Herbie, by the way. Didn't speak at all, but he was there. Again, I think I already mentioned this. The effects for The Thing, Ben Grimm, looked great, especially towards later in the trailer. Again, when I first saw him, kind of jarring, because again, the Josh Trank version and the one in the early 2000s, we're so used to that version, and the other one in that horrible Fantastic Four movie in like 2016 or 15, which, by the way, the effects for Ben Grimm even in that movie were actually quite good, to be honest, even though the rest of the movie sucked. I think I watched it before. I didn't watch it in theaters. When I start hearing it was a bad movie, I was like, yeah, I'm not going to go see that. But anyway, thought it looked good. The marketing behind the actual live stream came in a lot better, but whatever. Nothing they can do about it now. I thought the trailer was good. It did sort of what you wanted it to do. It got the job done. At least it's getting me excited too. I mean, I think a lot of folks, especially what's going on with Captain America: Brave New World and Marvel lately, us as the fan base needs to be excited. This did that. So put this microphone down. Golf clap for Marvel, Matt Shakman, the marketing team getting that trailer put together. You guys did the job, but I can understand there's some cautiousness going on. There's still a lot of unanswered questions. Like, for example, is Robert Downey Jr.'s Dr. Doom, will he be a part of it? I think from based on what Jeff Snyder has said and what folks like Alex Perez over at the Cosmic Circus, both kind of hinting that he will be in the movie in some ways. You'll get hints of him, because this is, by the way, the final. I don't believe it's the final. I think there's still shows and stuff that Disney Plus has to get out because they've been backlogged. But this is the last movie that I believe is coming out this year. I think so, if I recall correctly. I believe it is. I think. I may be wrong on that, but it's at the very least one of the last big movies before we get to, before we end up getting towards Secret Wars and Doomsday next year. Which, by the way, Doomsday is, going to be filming about a month from now. So just thinking about it too, it's like, I know I said this before, but like, man, it's crazy. We're about to get actual, probably pretty soon leaked set photos probably of our first look at Robert Downey Jr. as Dr. Doom. That's gonna be crazy. Ranch won't be the full costume, definitely be like a mocap suit, but how about that, man? We're getting pretty close. And again, I think this trailer getting folks excited again for me. I don't hate the Fantastic Four. Are they like my favorite superhero group? Not necessarily, but the fact that we're finally going to get what it looks like now, we haven't seen the movie yet. That could obviously, a lot can change from now and then, but based on the footage we saw today, the stuff we've heard behind the scenes, this might be the first time you've ever gotten an actual proper Fantastic Four movie, which, thank you. That's all we're asking for. And I think you have a director in Shakman, who, by the way, did WandaVision, and that was also played on the nostalgia of some of the older viewers. I think it can work, man. I think it can work. So, and also, by the way, I'll address this slightly here, but I may make this its own topic at some point. There's a lot of conversation about, oh man, Fantastic Four better than the Superman trailer. I haven't dived into a lot of that. I know some folks have. I know Josh over there at Nerds has a little bit. Folks online have. I won't say anything about it now, but I think Thursday we'll touch on that a little bit. But our show's packed, so we can't dwell on this too much longer. But again, Fantastic Four trailer got the job done. I thought it was a good trailer, good first impression. Saw everything he needed this. He didn't need to reveal a whole bunch of stuff like the Silver Surfer. I'm sure we'll get looks at that character in the next big trailer, which probably will come maybe around May, probably May, maybe April. I think, because remember, the movie's coming out pretty soon. It's like, well, like four, well, it's not that close, like 5 months away, 6 months away, or something like that. So it's coming up pretty soon. So it won't be too much longer. But how about that, man? First trailer, good. The marketing for the actual stream, come in a lot better. The Marvel marketing team, if you're listening to this, you can do better. I know you can. I'll probably be repeating that on Thursday when we go over the stuff about Captain America: Brave New World and their marketing situation, at least the way that movie has been marketed. So, but yeah, that's a great trailer, good first impression, and very, at least it got me excited. I know the rest of the internet, at least from what I can tell, feels the exact same way. And by the way, if you're new here, by the way, as we kind of transition here, again, make sure you subscribe. Some of you are watching this. Our first subscribers are watching, or at least they're watching. You know you're subscribed. I know some of you are not. So if you're not subscribed yet and you're watching this somehow, either on the replay on the Spotify version, so make sure you do so. Just click the button. Pretty easy. I'm sure if you have hands, most of you do. If you don't, then it's a little different situation, unfortunately. But if you do have hands, if you have the computer in front of you, very easy. You can click it. You click the click it. Subscribe button. You don't have to click the notification bell, but you can if you want to. And make sure to leave a comment, like the videos or streams, I guess. Yeah, busy show today. We got to move on here, but just make sure you do those things. Subscribe, and that should be fun. That's all I'm asking for you guys. That's all I'm asking. That's all I want. So transitioning from Marvel to rest of this will be football stuff going forward. So Matt Rhule made some comments. I'll dwell on this a little bit quickly here because it's sort of old news. Most of these are kind of old news, but we haven't done the show. We don't do shows like on Sunday. Most of the stuff was announced or last Friday. But Matt Rhule made some comments about spring practice now, about canceling it. Now, I know a lot of folks are worried or like, oh man, they're not going to do anything, or why are they doing this? You know, what does this mean? So the reason why he's doing this, and I can understand why to a certain extent, if we're going to look at this from a 50,000-foot perspective, the reason why Matt Rhule made those comments and the reason sort of why he's doing this is for probably a number of reasons. And I sort of love this kind of sort of stances here I agree with, by the way, with Bud Elliott, and those guys were on yesterday, and he made some comments about this, about sort of the reasoning why Matt Rhule did this. And I kind of agree with Bud a little bit about why he's doing this. Number one, clearly tampering the portal stuff. Because remember, there's the winter portal towards the end of the calendar year, and then we get the spring portal around early April, something like that, and goes until May. So because of the spring portal, most spring practices are done by like April, May, obviously. The portal opens up, database opens up again. You can enter in your name, and because of the spring games, which are nationally televised, everyone can watch it. At least most of the general public can, and coaches and players, they can see, maybe this XX or such and such player looks pretty good in the spring game. We could offer him some money. You know, maybe he's like a third stringer or a fourth stringer. Load up the Brinks truck, email him, text him, call him on burner phones, whatnot, so on and so forth. That's kind of obvious. I think that's one reason why I think Matt Rhule is at least considering doing this. Another reason too is his own personal players. And this is something that Bud Elliott over on Cover 3 brought up, is that a lot of times you'll see this and you won't hear it, but you'll hear it from guys like him and other reporters like him and Josh Pate, that some of these players, like the third string guys, especially during like practice or in these spring games, third stringers walk-ons who will make cool plays. Well, actually, mostly like second stringers versus third stringers and walk-ons will make an incredible play, like one-handed catch or like a huge run or whatever. And sometimes they'll go to the coach or whatever, position group coach or whatever, and go, hey, I want more money. I made a good play. And then using a direct quote here from Bud Elliott, and the coaches go and say, well, buddy, that was spring practice. You're going against like guys who won't ever start for us. Like, well, hold on a minute. That's another reason why, too. They want to get ahead of that. Maybe don't want to, get guys false sense of, oh, man, I looked really good in the spring practice. Or, man, I looked really good in, the scrimmage the other day. Man, I should get some, go demand to the coach, get more money. That's another reason, too. And then I'm trying to think the other ones that I can think of. Maybe some of the attendance thing, though. I think for some of these places, especially Nebraska, their attendance is fine. There's some of these other schools like Auburn, Alabama, LSU, Ohio State, Michigan, Georgia, probably not the best spring attendance. I think I've noticed as a student, a lot of people have that. The attendance has definitely gone down. Some of it is the product because you're literally just watching a scrimmage. I know Josh Pate's floated out the idea of having maybe your FCS team that you would play in your schedule instead of having that in the main actual fall. Just move it to your spring game. I actually agree with Josh Pate. I know some folks who I know personally disagree with that, and whatever, I can agree to disagree, but I think Josh Pate's idea to at least improve spring attendance or at least amp up the spring game, actually making it, a expedition or expedition game against the FCS team wouldn't bother me. I'm actually kind of down with that. I know a lot of coaches probably would, but they probably won't do it. But it'd be nice to them. You get the TV networks involved. They actually have it on televised TV. They have a lot of fans there. You can actually see an actual football game being played instead of either an actual scrimmage or what Ole Miss does and just does like the carnival, sort of like what the NFL Pro Bowl is. So it's like a college football version of that. But yeah, Matt Rhule's comments there, some thoughts on that, sort of reasons why he's detailing that. I guess the next question would be, and we'll move on to the other segments I have going on, or at least have on tap here. Is could other schools follow this? I don't know. Could. Again, Ole Miss sort of started doing. Ole Miss kind of started this. With Lane Kiffin and them. I'm not doing a proper spring game. Sort of doing like a college version, if you will, of the NFL Pro Bowl game. The dunk competition and like the foot race or the sack race or whatever. So they've already moved on from that. I think Ole Miss is probably the first to do that. I could definitely see other schools doing that. Like instead of, we'll do something for the fans privately, like behind closed doors, like the practice facility. But maybe for the television, maybe have like an event out of it, like a recruiting event, or I guess not really a recruiting event. Well, I mean, kind of, but sort of something like that, like something to, I don't know, like sort of, yeah, I guess basically a college version of the Pro Bowl game, I guess. I could see more schools doing that, but then again, I think even Chip Patterson brought this up yesterday. I think it was him, one of the guys on there. I mean, even then, it's like you don't have to use, like, players don't have to, or coaches don't have to use the spring game to get highlights from players. They can just look at their Huddy highlights or whatever. Though having the spring game footage available to you publicly does help a little bit. So it's not like the main reason why it's being, or that's like the main, that's not like the main method of getting footage, but it's one of them certainly. But that's my thoughts on the Matt Rhule stuff. It's interesting you brought it up. I mean, fascinating to see what other schools, I guess, implement that. I don't know if they will or not, but they could. Certainly, some schools already have. Like I mentioned, Ole Miss kind of went away from that, especially under Lane Kiffin. But yeah, some interesting stuff there with the whole spring practice thing. Very interesting comments there from Matt Rhule. Don't like hearing it necessarily. Again, I'm someone who's more of a traditionalist, at least when it comes to college football. Would like to see the spring games continue, but again, because of the way the portal is set up and the fact that tampering, you can try to get rid of it, but as long as no one else is saying anything about it, it'll just continue. That will be a thing. So even if you cancel spring game, it's not going to not happen. It's not going to stop coaches or players or other communicators within your football department or athletics department going a secret agent on you and getting burner phones or burner accounts on Twitter and DMing you. So not going to stop you from doing that. It's more water here. We'll quickly, and then we'll get back to the rest of the show. You guys know that Ohio State has a OC opening. I'm sure most of you know that by now. Chip Kelly moves on. He's at the Raiders now. Bye. Have fun over there. So that happens. So now the OC job at Ohio State is open. I'm going to sort of echo what Josh Pate said and sort of what the guys over on Cover 3 mentioned yesterday. I firmly believe that this is going to be a highly coveted position for Ohio State. You're seeing a lot of names floating around. Jason Candle's being thrown around. Name that popped up in my head. I'm not going to go into all of the candidates here, but just in general, like Jason Candle, some of those guys. Kevin Wilson, I believe, who was the OC under Urban Meyer. I think Ryan Day for a little bit. He left. I think he got fired recently from Tulsa, I believe. Yeah, from Tulsa. He's back in the open market. Sort of maybe like him and like Brian Hartline maybe getting involved. Two options there. Of course, Jason Candle, Bud Elliott's favorite. My favorite thing from him, it's calling him the Mario of the MAC. just fitting. If you guys don't know that, who knows me, I may do a full segment on that at some point on Jason Candle. Very niche topic there, Toledo football. But I've seen his name flown around, Brian Hartline or Kevin Wilson, sort of a combination of that. I believe that's who it is, right? Kevin Wilson. He was doing some research here on the fly. Kevin Wilson. So I'm pretty sure he is available. So he's not coaching anywhere right now. He's been fired. Again, was at Ohio State for like the Ryan Day, Urban Meyer years. For a number of years, left, take the Tulsa job. Not good enough. Bad. Former head coach of Indiana, by the way, too. Suppose if you don't remember that. But he was at Tulsa. Gross. Just horrible. One of the worst teams in FBS. So he's available now. History of Ryan Day. I think him and I kind of agree with Bud Elliott here. I think the most likely scenario, probably again the Kevin Wilson, Brian Hartline thing. I will mention, and I agree with Bud here too, the fact that Brian Hartline's been there for a while. He's the wide receivers coach who infamously got into that golf karting or four-wheeler accident when he was drunk or whatever a couple years ago. I'm not sure what that was about. That was like a huge story back in the day. I say back in the day, but it was only 2 years ago. So that was like May or June of 2022 or something. So if you don't remember that, that's that was an interesting time there. The Brian Hartline, I think that was him. Yeah, the ATV accident or the four-wheeler thing. He was drunk or whatever. But so the fact that he hasn't been the OC yet, well, backtracking what I was saying a few minutes ago, Bud Elliott mentioned about Brian Hartline. He's had multiple chances to be the OC, right? So they've had Ryan Day's been there, Wilson leaves, and they could have brought Hartline in. I think they tried to do something with him as like the co-OC. Wasn't a proper OC yet, though. So this would have been the second or third time they've had an OC opening there, and Brian Hartline may or may not be getting it. So does that tell you that Brian Hartline's not OC material? Does that mean he's waiting for something else? He doesn't want to coach? I can't agree, Bud, here. It's a little worrisome that he hasn't gotten any, because he's a good wide receivers coach. I'm not going to, say he's not. But he's a very good wide receivers coach. I mean, a lot of the guys he's gotten to Ohio State, most of them, a majority of them, have panned out. I mean, go look at this coming up NFL draft and the past ones. It's like a smorgasbord of wide receivers from Ohio State who are Brian Hartline people. Even some ones who didn't make it there. I mean, Caleb Byrne at Auburn didn't do so well because of injuries, and I think probably one of the rare misses, and kind of makes sense why Ohio State let him go. Probably didn't shed a tear at all. But even guys like Jameson Williams was at Ohio State. Good receiver. You're seeing him in the NFL have a lot of success. So I think as a recruiter, obviously he's really good. As a coach, as a play caller, don't know if I'll do that. I mean, like I said, they had the OC opening last year, and they went to first. I mean, the first hire they made was Bill O'Brien. Yeah, that Bill O'Brien. Yeah. Brian Hartline wasn't considered then. Bill O'Brien moves on. Brian Hartline, hey, the job's there for you. Nah, Chip Kelly comes in. So that does give me some positive concern that maybe he's not ready yet to be an ALC, and that's fine. I mean, not everyone's be ready for anything. I mean, that's okay. I mean, that's understandable. But still, I mean, you've been in the business for as long as he has, and for a number of years. You'd imagine his success recruiting and him being around guys like Ryan Day and Urban Meyer, you'd imagine he at least gotten some eyes, some people's, at least athletic directors' eyes linked on him to being either a head coach or at least being hired as an OC somewhere else. So, I don't know. I'll definitely say it's a little weird. Don't know if there's anything else to say there, but so he's definitely in the mix, I guess. Him, Kevin Wilson, that's something that Bud Elliott mentioned. I think someone uncovered, they may have been Bud, or one of them mentioned, again, the Kevin Wilson, him, Brian Hartline, sort of, mad scientist thing, and them pairing up with each other. That's probably about that will go. But I also think Josh Pate's little theory is interesting about active head coaches, especially the G5 will be an interest. Again, Jason Candle, guy, again, Bud Elliott calls him the Mario of the MAC. You don't know why, again, I'll probably do a whole segment on him and his history. Nothing against him, but just the reason why people look at him a different way and why people view him like that. I'll go into that probably at some point this spring and summer. But yeah, him, Jason Candle, again, Ohio guy, has been there. Obviously, he's in the state, so you probably know the best and worst of him because you're really in the same state as him. I'm sure a lot of the Ohio State folks, fans or whatever, know him. At least they've seen some of his team. So that's him. He's being considered. I think someone like Jeff Traylor. Jeff Traylor over at UTSA. G5 coach has done some good stuff there. I would at least consider him. But it's not even just any specific names. It doesn't matter. You can put out any names like him, Jeff Traylor, Jason Candle. It doesn't matter. It's just I think what Josh Pate said, and I think it's interesting. The fact that last year you took an active head coach at UCLA, he wasn't officially fired. There was rumors he was going to get fired. Let's not forget that. Unfortunately, that was a thing going on. So Chip Kelly, the rumors of him getting fired doesn't happen because he beats USC, and all of a sudden, oh yeah, everything's good now, Chip. Well, not really, because Ohio State backs the Brinks truck, and Chip says, you know what? Here's my escape chute. Bye. Have fun. Goes there. NFL jobs come open. Like I've been telling you guys privately, I've always thought that Chip Kelly always wanted back to the NFL. Then, of course, it wasn't just me saying that because everyone else started saying that yesterday and days following the announcement. But even privately, I was kind of like, yeah, I think Chip Kelly probably not going to stick around. I think the NFL, like him and Lane Kiffin both. And Lane Kiffin's not been reported, at least publicly. I think Lane Kiffin also sort of had that same boat. At least I think personally, I think he does want to get back to the NFL eventually. I mean, heck, go look at how he's building his college roster. Very much so free agency with him. But both of those guys, Chip Kelly, can always thought he was probably destined to go back to the NFL, at least at some point. Try to be head coach again and sort of redeem himself. So him leaving him, interesting to say the least that it was this quick, but him leaving eventually, I kind of was sort of getting myself ready for that. Again, knowing some of the reporting has been out there for a couple of years that he's been wanting to get back. Now, is always his primary goal is always to get back there. But again, the fact that Ohio State took a sitting head coach at UCLA who was not officially fired, took him, plopped him in, won a national championship, booms off the NFL. I agree with Josh Pate here. I think it isn't just the Brian Hartline, Kevin Wilson combination. It's also, again, guys like, Troy, not Troy Taylor, he's at Stanford. Though it could be him too. But any of these active sitting head coaches at these lower classification schools, like the G5 schools, again, think Jeff Traylor at UTSA, Jason Candle, some of the MAC schools, maybe even Sean Lewis, maybe, potentially. Again, just some random names here. I'm not saying those guys are confirmed or anything, but the Jason Candle one has been brought up. The Jeff Traylor thing, that's just something I've thought about. It's like a name like that. But any of these guys in the G5, again, the whole stick here, and I think Josh Bates talked about this too, where it's not just how it was a couple years ago or even 10 years ago, where the whole, at least the way people thought the system worked was, okay, you're an offensive coordinator, boom, go to the G5, then you get a head coach at the Power Conference. That's not the method anymore. The method now is you're a coordinator or a coordinator somewhere, or actually, yeah, so you become a coordinator, become a G5 coach. Don't even have to become a G5 coach or even go to become a Power 4 head coach. Just go become a coordinator. Yeah, it's that easy now because with NIL and the methods of recruiting have changed, at least publicly and at least legally you can do now. Changed a whole lot, not to mention the transfer portal. So I do expect for this OC search for Ohio State that, yes, Brian Hartline, yes, Kevin Wilson, that combination is probably, at least in my opinion, is probably the one that's most likely. But it's not just even that. Like any of these active head coaches in any of these lower level P4 G5 schools could be in play here. Could be in place if you're a fan of like any of these G5 schools, and it's not anything specific. I'm not insinuating anything, but if you're a UTSA fan, a South Florida fan, a Stanford fan, even to a certain extent, just be careful. Don't be surprised if you hear maybe your coach or your head coach could be in play here. If you're a fan of a lower tiered Power 4 or just a G5 team in general, don't be surprised. Just don't be surprised. I think some of these G5 head coaches, I can name a lot of them. Jason Candle, well, that's a little different, and for some people that's a little bit different. But he's been brought up. I mentioned Jeff Traylor. What about, here's one I'll throw out there. Last one we'll move on here because there's another OC news I was made when I was popped up this weekend. What about someone like Alex Galesh at USF? Why not him? He's off the old the Josh Heupel Baylor Bryles stuff. He runs the Veer and Shoot stuff. It's a very good program down there. He's built it up. I mean, heck, his first year there after whatever the mess was with Jeff Scott. It's gross. Now that program, when Jeff Scott head coach, that man, I'm not defending him right now. I'm not defending him, but I'm not trying to be mean to him. But like, man, again, like I said, said before, I'm not the first person to go out and say this guy needs to be fired. But boy, that was horribly mismanaged down there. This is bad. That's South Florida, and that's a place, by the way, that should not be that bad. should not be that bad. Yes, they're under resourced. Yes, they're kind of a weird situation by, being in Tampa and everything. At least, being in the shadow of Buccaneers. But that's not a place that should be that bad. And, of course, Galesh comes in, again, a Josh Heupel disciple, runs the exact same offense. In 1 year, they go from, 1 win to 7 wins and winning a bowl game. That's pretty good. They were okay last year. This year they should be good. So that's another guy, too. Another guy, Alex Galesh. Keep an eye on that name. That's a name of – that's a coach to be watching if you're for any job. I am just a Ohio State OC job. Any OC or Power 4 program that needs a new head coach at some point or a change is eventually made or something, that'll be at least my choice. I would call him. I care, but I know a lot of you guys don't care. Probably don't even know. I know some of those NFL flybys don't even know who Alex Galesh even is, but I do. This kind of let's see how long have you been going for? Let me check. I haven't checked. We didn't have really good pace here. All right, 35 minutes. It'll probably be a shorter show. Been pretty busy day for me today. I had a lot of stuff to do, so I'm gonna dwell on this show, or at least I'm gonna go for that much longer. But we'll see. But actually, yeah, I'm gonna get some more water here, and then we'll move on to this next little topic here. By the way, like I've said this before, I mean, if you do podcasting like me, always talking for this long, having water to parch your system here is probably a really good move to have. I mean, that's quite important to have because you don't want to be on air and coughing and stuff like that. That's no bueno. I don't think anyone wants that. Actually, there's been a breaking news here about from the old front office sports about the Pac-12 media rights package potentially coming back. Yeah, it's from front office sports. This is not a talk, by the way, but I may include this in the Thursday show more. But according to front office sports, said the quote, one of the lines here is the deal is the next step in the Pac-12's rebuild after the league was ravaged during conference realignment. Apparently, it's ESPN, Fox, CBS, or open. Okay, all right. I mean, I would be happy for the Pac-12 to come back, but okay, we'll see here. That's positive. That's thinking positively. That's good news. That's happening. But yeah, I just realized that's some kind of developing story there. But on the topic on the show, I'll probably touch on that more than likely, definitely on Thursday's show. Anyway, so Alabama has new OC. Ryan Grubb is back at Alabama. Yes, back because he was on the staff, or at least was down there with Killing the Board last year before he went back to Seattle. You guys don't remember, even before that, in the Saban's last year, what would eventually be his last year, before they got Tommy Reese, Ryan Grubb was the first choice for him. Washington was able to keep him away from there, or he didn't want to go down there. So it's, third time's a charm for them. So he's back. What does this mean for Bama? What does it mean for Killing the Board? Ironically, we're going to be talking about Bama here in just a few minutes. But good get for them. I would assume, and based on Ryan Grubb's history of Killing the Board, that this will be a good move. Anytime those two have been around each other, they're best buddies. They've been around for seems like 20 years or so. Good offensive mind. Heck, he literally rebuilt a broken toy, Michael Penix, and made him into a top 10 draft pick. So this is a good offensive coordinator. He knows the Killing the Board system. Again, nothing against the other who was it? The Nick Sheridan. I want to forget his name. Nothing against Nick Sheridan, but he's not the same as Ryan Grubb, right? I mean, you lose Ryan Grubb last year, and everyone's freaking out. Now, personally, I didn't privately before I did the show, much like a lot of these national reporters, because knowing Killing the Board is still the guy who runs offense, and Ryan Grubb, yes, he's good, and those two guys are mad scientists, kind of, just insane. What some of the stuff they did at Washington and Sioux Falls and Fresno, by the way, almost beating Oregon a couple years ago. Killing the Board is still the main brain trust there, and do I believe that Ryan Grubb not being there last year did play a role, sort of, kind of, but we'll touch on the other reasons why. But as you sort of transition into the prediction versus reality. But yeah, Ryan Grubb's back. I think this is a smart move. It makes sense, right? Immediately. I mean, once he was fired, or at least once the the decision to let him go from the Seahawks is made, I think a lot of folks could draw the conclusion, oh, he's going to go back to Bama, because why not? Unless some of these other NFL teams like Tampa, I believe, was in the mix, apparently. Some other jobs in the NFL. Once those jobs got filled, at least I think the Saints job's still open, but who cares about them? At least on this show. But for the most part, a lot of those jobs got filled up. He wasn't really much of a candidate. Goes back to Bama. Glad he's back there. I think, and I'll leave it with this, and we'll touch more on this again here in a few minutes when we talk about Bama and our predictions versus reality. I think this kind of bodes well for them because at least it brings more stability back. It's a guy you're familiar with. And I think it's someone, at least for killing the board, and I think it's Nick Sheridan. I think Nick Sheridan will clearly have a role in this offense. I think he'll have a role in the coaching staff. Him being the OC, I don't think will happen. Will he be a co-OC? Will Ryan Grubb want that? Heck, for his own pride or whatever. Don't think so. But I think he will still have a role. He's not going anywhere. They're not going to literally fire him and a trap doors pop up underneath the Malmore Athletic Center there. That's not going to happen. But yeah. So Ryan Grubb's back there. Solid move. I think it's pretty reasonable that was going to happen. But it's good. Good things official. Good gift for them. I have it on full authority that the Count on the Board Ryan Grubb experiment, at least the Bama version, I think could be pretty good. It was already going to be good with or without him, but I think it was going to be pretty good, especially now with him being there. So that's my quick little thoughts on Ryan Grubb. But we'll circle back on that here in a second. I mean, a lot of OC news at the Bama OC job being filled. We have the Ohio State job, at least to my knowledge, currently still open. The Bucs OC is now filled as of Friday. Told you guys on last Thursday's show, I thought before the end of the week we were going to get an answer, and we'll hope we did. Get some more water here, and then we'll do the our next two segments here, and then we'll wrap up the show. Oh, I'm going for a lot of water here. Almost running out, but we should be done here in a few minutes. So we've started this new series here, Predictions versus Reality, sort of looking back at our predictions over the last summer, and I will do those again, definitely a little bit earlier, because again, we were stacking a lot of those in there. We were doing like three of them, three projection segments. We'll probably start those probably in May, around Memorial Day, I think, a little bit before. But especially after spring practice is over, I think we'll start doing that. But so we do projections, like best case to worst case, and was reasonable, sort of, the combination of both. So like the lesser of the two, I guess, if you will, or the one in the middle, the one that at least I would have. So we did that for a lot of teams, and the two teams, we were sort of did this revisiting thing, I think a couple weeks ago. We're obviously continuing now until spring practice starts up. So at least for the next couple of weeks, I believe, maybe even through spring practice too, but hopefully we won't do all of the teams. We'll do some of them, at least some of the ones that at least I think will be interesting to do. But first ones, the ones here today are, of course, mentioned Bama, Ohio, Iowa State is the other one. We'll do that one first here. So Iowa State, team love hype. I think I played into that a lot. Josh Pate certainly played a lot into that, which kind of interesting how, some guy on the internet like me and Josh Pate were high on Iowa State, and here they are, had a great season. I'll touch on exactly how close this prediction actually came to being true. So our best case scenario for the regular season, by the way, was 10-2. That was our best case scenario. Again, based on some stuff, the players that coming back, or Rocco Beck coming back, a very good quarterback. I mean, his first starting year in 2023, really good. Like interception touchdown ratio was terrific. And yes, I know they lost to Max school. I think it was Ohio or something like that. That was one of those schools, but I know that was really bad. It was a pretty dark moment for Iowa State football. But they came back, even with the suspensions from the gambling scandal. They came back. Rocco Beck played incredibly well that year, and they rode that hype into the spring. And there was some look, by the way, too. And Josh Pate said this publicly, and I even said it too. Rocco Beck definitely got a lot of looks in the portal, both last winter and probably last spring. A lot of schools, especially in the southeastern region, I think specifically there, especially some schools like Auburn was probably in play, Florida probably in play. I think some other schools, Bama probably. Georgia. A lot of schools in play there for Rocco Beck. He could have got in, could have, but he didn't. He stayed at Iowa State. And Matt Campbell, he was loyal to him and loyal to that team. And there's a lot of expectations for him this year. A lot of big ones. I mean, you start off by like beating Iowa. I mean, just go look at the list here. So the record here in the regular season, by the way, exact same as our. Well, actually, I did the reasonable. Okay, so the best case was 10-2. Worst case 7-5. That was baked in injuries and some of the teams on the schedule. Most reasonable I thought was 9-3, but their actual schedule, yeah, circling back to that, was our best case scenario 10-2. Couldn't be us, couldn't be, golf clap for us, I mean, that's like we don't know anything. But we were right. 10-2 ended up being the correct record here. And some of their losses too were sort of ones we kind of had labeled. I think the Kansas game we had labeled. Texas Tech was a surprise team. By the way, that's a team, by the way, I think I mentioned before. Keep an eye on them in the Big 12 this year. Just keep an eye on them. I'm sure when we get to the record projection segment starting in May, that's the team we're going to be having. We're going to have a lot of interest in. Texas Tech. Very excited what Joe McGuire is building up there. To beat Kansas State, beat Utah, where Utah team without Cam Rising, who may as well be dead. So beat Kansas State and Farmageddon. Sadly, that game is me playing in Dublin, Ireland, this fall. Great, just good job, guys. Putting Farmageddon not in Manhattan, Kansas this year, not even the U.S. After playing in Dublin, Ireland in week 1. Good job, guys. Great job there. It's sad. It really is. It's disappointing that a great rivalry, at least to some people like me, at least the sickos like me, a cool name, by the way, to Farmageddon, a rivalry like that being played over on a neutral site field, no less, and it's being played in Ireland. Like, I have nothing against folks in Ireland. I want to go there. I mean, it's a cool place, but it's like, why would you do that? Like, this is Farmageddon. It belongs in Jack Trice Stadium and Bill Snyder Family Stadium. Doesn't belong in some stupid soccer stadium in Dublin, Ireland, a place that most of the famous can't even afford to go to. My little rants there finished, but yeah, we got this right. 10-2, right on the dot for the regular season. They lost in the Big 12 championship game to a red-hot Arizona State team. They won the Pop-Tarts Bowl, 11 games. First time, I believe, in school history, by the way. How about that? What's up with that? Iowa State winning 11 games. Oh, that's illegal. That's going against the U.S. Constitution. Some people will say that. Some people will, act like that's no big deal. It is a big deal for Matt Campbell, and that's a huge, huge deal. And I think next year, Iowa State again, and Farmageddon, can't believe it's freaking Dublin, Ireland, all places. I don't usually get that mad, but oh man, that makes me mad. Their schedule, by the way, looking ahead to next year, so they get Farmageddon in Ireland. So they get FCS team, Arkansas State on the road. Okay. Iowa, Cyhawk Trophy game. At least they have that game. And that game being played on the actual campus, so that's good. At least. God forbid, put that neutral site too. God forbid we keep that away from neutral site game. They have Arizona. We'll see there. Arizona State. So it's a reasonably good schedule, I think. Looking ahead here, not too many teams here that you would mention would put the fear of God into you. Now, granted, it is the Big 12, and a lot of weird things can happen. So let's settle down here. But at least on my feelings, for everyone they have coming back, and the time of Coach Matt Campbell is, he's been there for he's been there for a decade, and this is his 10th year, so he's been there for a long, long time. This could be yet another great year for Iowa State. Could be an absolutely big year for them. So, golf clap for Matt Campbell, Rocco Beck, and that staff there. Taylor Mauser, John Heacock, or I don't think it's Hancock or something. I think that's how it is. Yeah, Hancock. Hats off to that staff there. I know, again, Josh Payton and them, they know Trevor pretty well. I mean, Josh Payton's an Iowa State guy. I'm sure he did the interview with Matt Campbell last year. I'm sure he'll do it for the speaker series this year, which is starting up next week, by the way. I think this week too, actually, but I'm sure we'll hear some stuff from him too. It'll be interesting to see what Matt Campbell has to say. If he doesn't speak with torch, I'm pretty sure he will. Of course, JP will not miss an opportunity to go to Ames, Iowa again, but yeah, I got that right. 10-2, best case scenario, and ended up being the correct one. Bama. Okay, so this one needs a little bit of explaining here. So, well, actually, not that much explaining. I mean, if you guys watched the show last summer, which knows Spotify only, you guys know I was not necessarily down on Alabama, even though they made the head coaching change, even though Nick Saban was no longer the coach there. I thought bringing Kellen on the board, the talent roster there, and the capability they had, and the possibilities that were there, this could be a very good year. I picked in the best case was 11-1, worst case was 9-3, reasonable was 10-2. They actually did the worst case scenario, 9-3. Now, granted, there's a lot of things on back here, so Kellen on the board comes in last year. I think Josh Pate touched on this in the Sunday show, and I kind of think a lot of folks forget this. This was not a very clean transition in terms of getting this roster together. So Kellen on the board comes in, Saban retires. The roster is it's open season, poaching season. You can just go in there and poach players like vultures eating a dead animal on the side of the road. Like that's such a weird rule too. When a coach gets fired or retires or leaves, your players can go in the portal for, I believe, 2 weeks. Like a 2-week window. You can enter their names in the database, but you can't get players because the window for getting players is ended. So it's a one-way street to somewhat of a disadvantage for Kellen on the board and company. Not his fault, by the way. It's the rules, and unfortunately, it's the consequences of having folks who don't really care about the sport or don't really think about it that much. The logistical part of it, don't care about it. Oh yeah, new coach coming in. Oh, sorry. Oh, if your players can leave. But by the way, you can't get players until the spring. Sorry, that's the rules. Expectations. But so that happens to him. But if disadvantage, some people will call it excuse making. It's not. It's a real thing. I mean, if you were so smart, go try and go figure it out. So Kellen on the board comes in. He's at a disadvantage with the rules. Players leaving, can't get ones yet until the actual spring window opens. So think all that, keeping a roster together. Not to mention, Brian Grubb doesn't come with him. He doesn't arrive with him, or he doesn't stay with him. He arrives there, but then he ends up leaving home to Seattle. So a bit of a disarray there. You have to keep players from entering the portal. Some guys came back, like Cam Proctor came back. Thank God for that. So there, when that happens, you have whatever's left of the roster. You get the season started. You have Jalen Milroe as your quarterback. Things were not always even. You had the Oklahoma game, Tennessee game, understandable. Vanderbilt game, very sweet and sour type year. You beat LSU, beat them big, beat Georgia. Think about this, friends. Like, if you're going to tell yourself, a Bama fan, so this would be a little bit of an exercise here. So if you're me, know what you know now, travel back to last summer. You told someone who living in, Alabaster, Alabama, or Dothan, Alabama, and go say, hey, let me tell you some stuff about the future here with Kellen DeBoer in Alabama. So they're going to start the year undefeated. I'm not telling you what the rest of the season entails. I won't spoil it for you, at least all of it. So they start the season undefeated. They beat Georgia at home. First year head coach. First year as a head coach at Alabama. You're 4-0. You're number 1 in the country. You beat Georgia in a wild game. What do you think? Well, I think the Bama fan in Dothan, Alabaster, Utah, Alabama, not spelled like the state, like the Indian tribe. Utah, Alabama, Jasper, Alabama, Hamilton, Hackleburg, and those areas. I don't know why I mentioned that. That's a famous tornado location. As a weather enthusiast, I know that location. It's based on knowing my history. But if you ask anyone from any of those places, they'll probably tell you, if you told them that, they were 4-0 heading into the game against Vanderbilt. They beat Georgia, and they'll go, oh, yeah, Bama, shooing for the playoffs, SEC champs, let's go. Yeah, so they lost the Vanderbilt game, lost to Tennessee, okay, fine. Lost to Oklahoma, beat Auburn, a sloppy game. And then they lost the bowl game to Michigan, so there's that. So not a good end of the year. I think a lot of reasons for this again. The roster, the way it was constructed, a bit of disadvantage for Kellen on the board and company. Then was able to bring his little staff with him. Jalen Milroe, I think Josh Pate's touched on this publicly now that the season's over. I think it's some of the frustrations that he had as a fan. If you're a Bama fan, if you're watching like Jalen Milroe in the offense, I think the coaching staff agreed with you. Or at least obviously did agree with you, because I think there's a lot of inconsistency there. I mean, it's not that Jalen Milroe's a bad player, he's not a bad kid, but some of the inconsistencies, sort of like the Mr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde, like, which Jalen Milroe was going to show up. I think you can definitely, get the vibe that the offense was sort of hamstrung by him and sort of, relied on him being good. And there's some of that was skill things, and some of it was also health. Because I also agree with Bud Elliott's theory that at least the way they were using Milroe last year, by the quarterback run, and having to make sure his legs are being a focal part of the offense, takes a toll on someone. I don't imagine the pain he was feeling after Georgia game, the LSU game, and after all the tons and tons of ibuprofen he's having to take after the games. It's like his health definitely was not great. Now, he wasn't hurt or anything, but just his overall energy level, health, fatigue, if you will, the stuff like that, probably wasn't up to full efficiency. Definitely played a role into why the offense had the game against Oklahoma or the game against Tennessee or the game against Auburn or the game against Michigan. Then the Michigan game's a little bit different because there's a lot of opt-outs and things like that, injuries and whatnot. A weird scenario, but the worst case scenario here hit for Bama. It really did. A little bit below our expectations. I thought this would have been a fairly good team. Be interesting to see what they do next year, or at least this coming up season. They start out with Florida State. I think it was Wisconsin Towns. How about that? Two P4 non-conference games. That's pretty rare. I don't think any other team besides a G5 team's ever done that, which is insane. And that's the definition of insanity. I guess LSU just kind of did that last year as they played both the former Pac-12 teams, the USC, UCLA, down to Big Ten, two Big Ten teams. And doing it again this year, too, I believe. Or, yeah, they're doing it again. They think they play. Wait, do they? I don't think they do. No, because the UCLA game was a return of at least the sequel, if you will, of the 2021 game. So I don't think they have that problem this year. Yeah, I don't have that problem this year. They only play one of the P4 opponents, but LSU did it last year. Bama's doing it this season. This coming up season, so they'll have the two P4 teams. So that's interesting, to say the least. Pretty rare, but yeah, look at their schedule here. I can get to it, doing some research here on live on the YouTube. Yes, they get Florida State and Wisconsin. Yes, so two Power Four opponents in the span of 2 weeks, 3 weeks, or whatever, in the opening 2 months, if you will. That's pretty rare. Tough schedule. I know Wisconsin, a lot of conversation with Luke Fickell. I know a lot of folks are not happy or at least worried about him being up there. Florida State, we'll see how they look this year, but that's tough. But I think with Ryan Grubb being there, you get to see what you have with Austin Mack, Ty Simpson, maybe bring in the true freshman. If I can find, Keelan Russell, that's his name. I knew his last name is Russell. I just forgot his first name. So Keelan Russell, Ty Simpson, Austin Mack, the guy who was with Kalen DeMore and Ryan Grubb at Washington, back up to one, Michael Penix. So we'll see. They have options there. I don't think, a little bit of a spoiler here when we do our projections this summer, I don't think this year's Bama is going to be really that good. But I think next year and years to come, yes, I think this is going to be a very formidable team. They're recruiting really well, top 5 in recruiting. A lot of folks are still used as an excuse, and it's all about expectations. We should relax a little bit. Might be another rough year. May not like it, but at least there's a future there. Again, you bring in a couple of 5-star guys coming in, very good recruiting class. They'll be fine. The program's not falling apart. Kalen Moore's not getting fired or anything like that. He's not going anywhere. Unless any scandal happens or the next couple of years just really goes sideways. He's perfectly fine. He's building it. I think 2026 is probably going to be the year where you really, really should expect Bama to be really good. We'll see about this year too. It's a interesting schedule. It's, again, you get your 2 P4 non-con games. It's at Georgia, Missouri, Tennessee. Could be an interesting. South Carolina on the road. LSU, at Auburn, Oklahoma. So, yeah, again, that's a very interesting schedule for Bama. Very interesting, especially their first 3 Power 4 opponents. At Florida State, Wisconsin at home, and then Georgia on the road. And that's not easy. That's a pretty tough schedule right there. At least the first 3 P4s. Now it's not a Florida schedule. That's a whole different enchilada there. But for Bama, yeah, worst case scenario happened. But I'm not too concerned though. I'm not sitting here and acting like I'm not acting like Kalen DeMore is some idiot. He's not. And hopefully you guys understand it, but I know you guys probably won't. Because again, it's all about expectations, right? So if he loses to Florida State and you need to fire him, all right, fine. You do that. Go start making program altering changes every single year. So stupid. All right, so the Buccaneers wrap up the show here with this. They have a new OC, Josh. Hey, nice name. Josh Gizzard. He was the passing game coordinator of Tampa. Sort of linked a little bit with Liam Cohen. He was promoted. Has a lot of history. He's a former Ivy League quarterback. Been around for a while. He's at Duke with David Cutcliffe, by the way, our great head coach. Was with the Dolphins for a little bit, multiple administrations. Administration sounds like it's a presidency, but not really. It was there under multiple coaches. There with Mike McDaniel, very good, very, very well respected offensive coordinator or offensive-minded coach, if you will. So he's been around for a little bit. Very smart guy. At least they're keeping some of the consistency, if you will, with having that sort of similar Liam Cohen style. I think it's a decent enough hire. Reasonable enough. Yes, would have liked to have like a Ryan Grubb type or a Cliff Kingsbury. Absolutely, I would have. Again, I'm not in the hiring process over there, and I shouldn't be, but decent enough hire. I'm okay with it. We'll see how it turns out. Could be a total disaster, could be not. At least we're keeping some of the consistency there. At least with Baker, at least the language won't change that much. But it'll be interesting to see. Again, he's a first-time play caller. Worry him a little bit, especially if you're at least in the NFL, to be exact, because, again, it's a little bit more of the experience is key here. But very fascinating here. Hopefully, excuse me, they can keep this guy around, and hopefully they will, because I think it'd be kind of strange once again if you end up having to do this again come this time next year. So hopefully that doesn't happen. So yeah, Josh Gizzard comes in again, keeping the language still the same, keeping it somewhat familiar with Baker and company. I kind of like it. Pretty reasonable. They also, by the way, get to retain a lot of the coaches who were going to go with Liam Cohen. Tampa blocked that. I believe they actually have a right to do so. That's in the NFL bylaws. So they did that. They're sticking with him. So the line coach is still there. Some other assistant coaches. Thank God they're still around. So that's big news for Tampa. Again, like I said last week, figured it would be a answer by the end of the week. Here and there was. So that was a pretty quick turnaround there, if you will. Interestingly enough. So, and that's it for the show. So we'll be back on Thursday. Normal show. Hit the microphone there. Hopefully we're still recording. Yeah, we are. We're still recording. So normal show on Thursday. Got a lot of big topics there. Got some news show tomorrow. So until Thursday, enjoy the rest of your Tuesday, Wednesday. I'll see you guys Thursday. So until then, take care and we'll see you then.